Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Debbie and I'm a mixed media artist, and today it's all about doing my favorite fives as a swatch and as a Halloween edit. Now there are certain colors that are associated with Christmas and there are certain colors associated with Halloween, and today, because it is Halloween, I have chosen 5 in each of the 4 Halloween color categories, get that out, to swatch for you and explain why I love them. Before we get into that, some housekeeping. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and if you like what you see here, my teaching style, and also you'll see some of my sketchbook as well during this where it's relevant to the colors. If you like what you see there, do consider joining my Patreon. It functions as an art school where I post tutorials 3 times a week. And there are all sorts of other little bits and bobs going on. We've just coming to the end today of Halloween Spook Week, which is I've built two A4 pictures using little snippets of techniques. You'll see what I mean if you have a look. It's a fun thing, and yeah, everybody seems to really love it. I do it again at Christmas for Advent, but yeah, Halloween could not be missed out. It's such a fun time of the year. So back to it. Halloween, we like green, orange, purple and black. Those are the Halloween colors, and you know that's written in stone now because I've said it out loud, so it's happening. That's happening. So what I've done is, hidden in this book are my choices for the favorites in each category, plus I did do one honorable mention in the greens because I couldn't not limit it to 6. It was hard enough not to have to limit it to 6 million. I could have kept going. So let me just show you what I've done here. I'm also going to label these up and have them as a PDF for my students so that they know exactly what's what and where's where. But let's get on with it, shall we? And go through them one at a time. So the very, very first one is going to be green. It's one of my favorite colors and I use it an awful lot. Now I've got some colors here, some colored pencils. I've got some gouache and I've got some watercolor. And I thought we would, like I said, kick off the Halloween colors with green. And one of the watercolors, I'll leave that till last because one of them isn't actually a green, but it is at the same time. It was extraordinarily difficult to find only 5 greens that I love, but these are the ones I keep reaching for, so that's what I thought we would do. Now, my students on Patreon have recipes for this particular green. This is the green I mix myself, and quite quickly it's darkest blue, darkest green, and darkest brown, which makes this wonderfully moody green. And this is a traditional gouache. So as you can see there, it's sitting in my palette and I re-wet it as necessary. And like I said, my students have the actual recipe with the amounts to get the colour. It's just such a lovely moody colour. And this makes my heart sing because normally there's just, I don't know, there's always something wrong with a green. I'm being very picky. I realise that. Very picky indeed. But it's an important colour to me. And I really need to be able to see the colour I'm after and use the colour I'm after. It makes a big difference. So that is traditional gouache. And I've got another one up there. Just, there's going to be a favorite 5 plus a bonus. I just remembered that one. Probably just as well to remember it now. Now, while we've got the paintbrush out, let's look at the watercolors. This is my palette of greens, and I really I use a lot of them actually. It's, like I said, very, very difficult just narrowing down to 5 greens, which is why we're going to have a bonus anyway. But the next one is actually a Holbein Full Moon Yellow. So it's not a green at all, it's a yellow. I also like Van Gogh Dusk Yellow. But this is a particularly nice, you might look at it and think, oh gosh, surely you could have come up with something better than that. It's just really sludgy. That's the point. When you're using the green in a landscape, sometimes it's nice to have, I don't want to use the word boring, but compared to some of the super granulators and so forth, it could be seen as a little bit boring. Sometimes it's nice to have one that doesn't try to take over, because you can't have too many stars of the show in a picture. It's meant to be some sort of focal point somewhere. Then you need some expanses that you fill in with, dare I say, normal colours. This is Holbein Full Moon Yellow, and it's a really, really great way to fill in expanses of countryside. Let me just see here. I've just moved in, as I said in the intro, so things are a bit all over the place. But if I can find a sketchbook where I've actually used green, you know, I'm not going to... this one's probably as good as any. This here is filled in using that full moon yellow. And so is this one, bits and pieces. The thing is with mixed media is you're layering. You layer a lot of things. There are 3 main layers where you, and I have discussed that in other videos, where you start out where you block in the big things. You paint with big brush strokes, quite literally. Then the second layer is refining. The third layer is detailing. And there may be more than one step in between each layer, but that's the general sort of way. Just trying to, yeah, there's some of it in this one as well. Apparently it's a squirrel thing. There's a lot in here. All of these colours through here have that wonderful green. I don't think I did. See, this has quite a bit of it as well. And here too, because like I said, it doesn't take over and try to dominate. So you can put it bits and pieces here as well. You can put it into any picture where you might have been doing something else, and it will play happily alongside other colours. So it's such a useful one. So I had to have that as one of my favourites. Again, while we're still dealing with wet media, this is a Raw and Klingner sketch ink, and this is Emma. It's a particularly vibrant one, not at all like the last one that sort of tends to fade into the background. This one can dominate if you're not careful. It's an ink, but it's got that beautiful, it's kind of muted. I call this a bit bright, but I dare say to other people it isn't bright at all. But to me, it has a lovely vibrancy. It's got that nice yellowy cast that I particularly value. And yeah, it goes well with the other colours that I use. Right, so those are my, technically 2. This is my +1. Because I usually, in my favourite 5s, I allow an honourable mention. So the Emma ink is the honourable mention. I have a Derwent Lightfast in Forest. I have a Luminance 6901 by Caran d'Ache in Green Ochre. And the surprise edition is actually this Willow Green from Holbein. I'm really enjoying that colour. And I mixed a gouache to go with it, which is not on this list, so we can't mention that, because otherwise I'll have my favourite 751 million greens, which would be very, very easy. So this is the Forest pencil, and it's again, it's just deep and beautiful. And I've pressed too hard. It's also got a slightly grey cast to it. It's one of these fabulous colours, and I have a few of them in this video. It's one of these fabulous colours that you can get more than one colour out of, depending on what you do with it. So Forest, it's just an absolute must. I buy these 3 or 4 at a time. I live in horror of running out of them. The Caran d'Ache is very allied to the Full Moon Yellow. And this, you'll see a bit of a pattern here actually, because mixed media is using mixed media, all sorts of different media. That's sometimes enough variation to be going on with. And what you want then in addition to that is some normality, as in things that are very similar. So Forest goes with the gouache that I mix. This Green Ochre is very, very similar to the Holbein Full Moon Yellow watercolour. The Willow isn't really the same as the Emma ink, but at the same time it is. So please forgive me if nothing makes sense. not much makes sense to me either. I sharpened these because I was being, you know, proper and doing everything right. And then, of course, break the tip. So Willow by Holbein is very, very similar, or rather it works beautifully with the Raw and Klingner sketch ink, even though it starts out quite vibrant. And the first time I used it, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I got here? I'm going to have to add some red, pink or orange into this to make something out of it. But when it dries really nicely. Now, I'm working in a Hannah Müller nostalgia sketchbook, which is not actually meant for for wet media, and it reminds me of this every time I try to bully it into submission. It still sort of does it though, so I'm really grateful about that, but it's not meant for it. So sometimes these colors can look different on different sorts of paper, but this is my favorite 5 greens, whoops, for Halloween, plus a little line that I've put on the paper now. Can't keep anything neat. So the next one, let us move on to orange, because that is definitely also a Halloween colour. Now, just to remind you, my Patreons will get a PDF and I'll label all of these up so you don't have to remember them. Yeah, because quite a lot by the time we've finished them all, because I've got 4 different colours, as I said, and 5 of each, and sometimes an honourable mention. So let's see where we go with orange. Okay, so orange is one of those colours that is not for everybody. And I think sometimes you would find that there are whole groups of people in the community who can't find one orange that they really love, let alone 5. But I have 5, and it's quite an extended sort of palette, and you'll see why in a second. There are a couple of colours that don't appear to be orange. One of them is, one of them isn't, but I still use it in this orange spectrum, and I'm hoping you'll see how that works when they go together. I've only got one wet medium this time, excuse me, and it's another Raw and Klingner sketching. This one's Carmen. It's in the same family as Emma. And I like this because I use it for my squirrels and my foxes. And you saw those just a bit ago. Sun keeps coming out and going away. It's that sort of weather, isn't it? It's what happens at this time of the year. So it's a nice vibrant colour yet again. This one, it does dry a little bit sort of more muted. Let me just see if I can grab another sketchbook here. And, oh gosh, page here. It's really nice for foxes. And it doesn't go quite as dull as the Emma one. It stays quite vibrant, but it's just the right amount of vibrancy to begin with. So there's a fair bit used in there. And I will use it wherever there's an autumn picture. A fox, like I said, I've used quite a lot in here as well. Are there any squirrels? There's plenty of foxes. There's a squirrel. It's the same for squirrels or foxes. Just a really lovely base coat to get those colours just right. Because if you're going to put a fox or a squirrel, we have red squirrels here in Germany, mostly in our area anyway. Oh God, the sun's, it's kind of nice, but it's not always helpful when you're filming. When you put a fox or a squirrel into a picture, it kind of automatically becomes the focal point. Even when, I think back here somewhere, I have got rather a lot of, no, this wasn't the one. This has got some of the Holbein Full Moon Yellow actually in this area here. It's just perfect for it. But I've got some little mushrooms and there are a couple of leaves and other orangey things around here. But the fox is what stands out, even amongst all the other orange. Obviously, there's a lot of green there as well. And here's a better example. Mainly oranges and browns, but the fox has still made itself into the focal point, which is great because that's what you want. So this is just the right base coat for that sort of thing, especially at this sort of year. And we're in October at the moment when I'm filming this, all ready for Halloween week, which is going strong on my Patreon at the moment. If you want to join us, it's a lot of fun. You don't have to do anything. It's just short snippets, but we build a couple of pictures with them, so it works well. Anyway, next one is Herculaneum Red. Now, this is a Caran d'Ache Neo Art 6901 pastel. You will have seen them by now, I should imagine. These are sort of brilliant, actually. I love them. They are wax and oil at the same time, really lovely and easy to blend, fabulous to use with pan pastels. They work well with just about anything. And I like this colour because it's a really, like I said, I'm using it as an orange. And once all the oranges are down, hopefully you'll see why that works so well. Because even though it is labelled as a red, Herculaneum Red, and it's sort of a pinky salmony colour, there's enough orange in there for me to be able to use it with other orange things and where I would like orange, but I don't want it to stand out quite as much as this one here. And then, of course, back true to form, this is a Liquitex marker. This is a cadmium orange hue. Now, cadmium colours you've got to be careful with because they are toxic. And especially if you're pregnant or nursing, that it can be a little bit problematic. However, when you see written on something hue, that means it's an imitation of that colour. So this has not got cadmium in it. It is a hue. So it's, and here it actually says in the French, imitation. So wherever you see that, so you might see cobalt blue hue. Cobalt's another thing that's a little bit toxic, sadly. When you see hue, it means that they've managed to capture the pigment colours of it and make it just like we'd like it to be, but it's fake. So there's no real danger. So that's the thing to look for. If you can't find it in a particular colour, then for goodness sake, if you are pregnant or nursing, don't use this colour. There are other oranges. This is not the only one, but, well, this one's okay, but you know what I mean. Cadmium colours are not the only ones. Sadly, cadmium gives beautiful, vibrant reds and yellows and oranges. So therefore, it's reached for quite a bit by the manufacturers, but hues abound. Now, the other thing to say about Liquitex, because in mixed media art we are layering, Liquitex is famously not great for layering. It dries a bit shiny and it doesn't always play nicely when you would like it to. So you've got to be careful where you add some of the layers. And I mean, this is the whole point of joining a class where you can learn all this, because some of us have had to sort of learn it by accident. So there's been a lot of sort of missteps along the way. But you can't just put anything over anything. It's not difficult, but it's difficult if you've got to work it out from scratch sometimes. So you've got to be careful where in the 3 layers, whether it's base coat, you know, the initial big shapes, refining or detail, which layer you're in. You've got to plan ahead a little bit. For example, if you put oil paint down as your first layer, you're not going to put anything over that. There's no coloured pencils for you. It won't work. Nothing much is going to, some things will. And of course, oils have come a long way since I used them last century, would you believe? True, sadly. They've come an awfully long way, and there are products that you can layer over, but they're still not going to give you the nice, easy ride that you would like to have. So having these things and knowing about them is quite valuable. So Liquitex, just going to give it a shake. You can hear the mixing ball there, where it is going to get the pigment all nicely mixed into the binder, and hopefully it's working. Yes, it is. Sometimes it doesn't. This is a lovely, what I would call a Fanta orange, and it works again beautifully with the Carmen ink because it's almost identical. So you might ask, well, why on earth would you need 2 colours that are practically identical, especially with 5 when you've only got 5? Because this is a different delivery system and it's a different product. This is a base colour. This is an ink. It will stain the paper. So whereas I could worry away at the gouache or the watercolour for a bit and lift it by blotting it with plain water, this will never come off. It has stained the paper. It's gone deep into the paper and we're stuck with it. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit about it. That's the thing with ink. So that's everybody talks about watercolor being the hardest paint to master. I actually think ink is worse because you don't have that chance of getting rid of it. By all means, you can take some of the color off, and you'll always get something by just, getting a brush, dipping it in water and having a bit of a scrub at it. You might even get some. No, you're not going to. It's already too late. That's the thing. Whereas with these others, if I do that same little test, make sure I'm on camera, with gouache, I can lift that pigment out. And if I've made a mistake and gone in too heavy, I can fix it, or at least mute it down to the point where I can put some other layers over the top, and then I can do something about the mistake and save the picture. You can do the same with watercolor, but you can't do it with ink. With ink, that's there. Like I said, you get what you get. This is the same being acrylic, as in that's not going to re-wet the way traditional gouache does. However, this will go over things where that won't. Ink is a first layer product, in my opinion. Yes, of course, I put it in the second layer sometimes. Actually, I put it in the second layer quite a bit. But you can't detail over the top of some things with it. Short caveat there, because you can glaze with it. So that might seem like a contradiction in terms, and I guess it is. Glazing is where you will go over the top of something with something that's quite transparent, or at very least translucent, to change the colour of it. And I use that a lot with animals to go, if they're looking a bit dead and flat, glazing over the top with something like this can just lift them and make them work again. So I guess I do use it in all layers, but I tend to go for it in the first layer. Now that's just my art practice. You might speak to 10 other art teachers and get 11 different responses, because art is quite personal. But this tends to be the first layer for me, and unless I want to glaze, and then it will grab the paper and stain it, so it's going to be there forever. You can go over it, mind you. It's not the end of the world. It can be gone over with all sorts of other things. I can go over that with gouache. I can go over it with acrylic. Watercolor depends on the color of the paint. Pigment very much plays a role. I can go over that with pastels of all kinds, this colored pencils, anything. So I can still get rid of it, but you can't take it off the paper. So if you're in an area of your painting where that matters, that can be a little bit of an issue. Like, for example, if you spill some in the middle of the sky, well, we now need birds in the picture, because we need something to cover the great big orange ink spot, and we've all done it. If you haven't done it, it's coming. We've all done things like that. So that's the problem that we have to be concerned about with inks and things like that. Yeah, so they're fixable, but it depends where you drop them. This is Derwent Drawing. Now, Derwent Drawing have just released a whole heap of new pencils, as we all know, and I have a swatch video coming up. This one's Mars Orange. This one's one of the older ones, and I like this one for two reasons. Number one, I haven't used any of the new ones yet. I've promised myself that until my students see them, no, I'm not going to use them. And this one is also part of the old set, which is also important if you like it yourself and you want to get it, and you live in a part of the world where the new ones haven't reached you yet. I know from one of my students in Australia that there's going to be a delay until March, I believe, or anyway, a very, very long time. And here in Germany, it's quite hit and miss. I managed to get some, and the very next day, almost the entire stock is gone. So hard to find at the moment. So Mars Orange, you can find this in just about every place, I suspect, because it's the one that's been around for years. I like it because it's a nice muted orange, and let's use it on its side because you get a really good idea of the colour there. It's almost a milky orange, quite nice with that one. These are quite similar, but they all still work together to create a vibrant orange. So that's Mars Orange by Derwent Drawing in the old set. The last one's a bit of a surprise, because if you just grab that out of a drawer, if I said, look, just grab any orange, you probably wouldn't grab this one because it looks more brown. It is a orange extra dark. And Pan Pastel have a 4-colour system where you'll have a very light one, which is labelled a tint, and a very dark one that's labelled extra dark, and then a couple in between. Yes, you can mix them to create new colours. I tend not to bother because I'm lazy and I love to see all the colours, and I have full set syndrome. So once I get latched onto something, I'll buy it in every colour. So if you want to get rich and stay that way, open up a art shop and tell me where it is. Right. This is Orange Extra Dark. It is one of my favourite sort of colours to create filling in a picture. It goes over some of these other things so beautifully. Love, love, love doing my, this year with mushrooms, I've gone with the Neo Arts with Pan Pastels over the top for shading and highlighting. It's been wonderful. So those are my orange choices. The next one we're going to look at is purple. Right, now for those of you who know me quite well, purple has to include, get rid of this label off here, it's time it went. Purple has to include Caput Mortuum, which is also very, very nice, given the name being Halloween. So I've got a couple of things here. And I'm going to start off with another Raw and Klingner ink. It's the same people who make these other two. But this one is their antique ink, and it's a lovely big 100ml bottle of this, which is nice. Caput Mortuum is, to me, right, it's also leaking. It's okay, a little bit of Halloween blood happening. Time I cleaned the rim, I think, because it's going everywhere. Caput Mortuum is to me what Payne's Grey is to some other people. I adore it, and I use it as often as I can get away with. It's that perfect purpley brown. But I'm counting it as a purple because I've always had a love-hate relationship with purples. Yeah, it wants a clean and it wants putting the lid on properly. Gosh, now it's really going everywhere. It's like a weird science experiment. I've always had a love-hate relationship with purple. There's one that I call Menopause Mauve, which is Cadbury coloured purple. I think you all know which one I mean. Gosh, I've actually flung it all over the room. It's all over my sketchbook and God knows, probably the carpet too. I don't like that purple. I can't even find an example of it because I don't like it and I don't use it very often. But anyway, it's not a great, I just don't like that purple. And if you've ever had Cadbury's chocolate, not a slur on their chocolate, I adore their chocolate, it's just that colour purple. I've never liked that. So at one point I was telling people I don't like purple, and then I realised that's not true. That's not true even a little bit. I like these muted purples. So Caput Mortuum is an absolute favourite. So that's an ink in Caput Mortuum. Now, famously, the Karen Dash Cash Grab, where we've all bought these little sets. And this one here, another Caput Mortuum. And this one is Neocolor 2. I'm just a little bit annoyed with Karen Dash for not allowing these into open stock, but I suspect that they will at some point, especially when they've sold out and we can't get them anymore. I think that's when they'll sort of pretend to be doing a good thing for us and putting them into open stock, because I don't see the point of developing all those colours and then just leaving the technology to rot. This is the dark set. This is where you will find this one here. Sorry, rant over. This is where you will find this Caput Mortuum one. It's a Neocolor 2, which means it is water soluble. But as you just saw, I tend to use my finger and blend it out. But you can also blend it out with water. And that changes the properties of it a little bit and allows you to layer over a little bit more readily. You can still layer over the bit that I sort of rub with my finger, using the warmth of my finger to spread it. But it's going to be a little bit more waxy than the bit that I did with water. But as you can see, that is a purple to make dreams out of. I adore it, and I'm watching it get smaller and smaller and hoping I'm right about them, just saying they're not going to release them but do it anyway. I'm going to pop my head in the sand and leave it there. I really am. This one is a Tombow. It's 757, so the actual colour, I know they have colours. I don't have them to hand. It's a state secret, so apparently. But it's a nice Shiraz sort of red wine berry colour, which is useful, actually. Now, these are funny. They're not light fast. So be careful where you use things. If you're going to paint something and leave it in your sketchbook, or paint something, scan it and use the print, then you're absolutely fine as a rule. But if you are going to make a picture and then sell it that someone wants to hang on their wall, you're going to get an angry phone call. Don't know when, but it'll happen because they're not light fast, which is a pity. They're also targeted as being fun and easy to use, which can be true, but not so much the easy bit. A lot of people buy these thinking that they're actually fairly straightforward and much easier than an actual brush and paint. It's not true. They will grab the paper. I can get this off with water, the same as we did over here with the gouache, but they look like a 4-year-old's been at your work if you're not careful. I have got some techniques that I've developed, which is beyond the scope of this video, to use them, and I'm sort of popping them into as many tutorials over on my Patreon that I can find, so that my students who have also bought them and said it looks like a 4-year-old has stolen my art supplies, they can also see how I use them slightly differently. Because here again, let's grab the sketchbooks again. Here in the background, I do use it to mute things. Here as well, all around these sorts of areas, I do use these Tombows, and also the Lyra ones, the Faber-Castell gold fibers. I use them to actually blend in, not in those so much, a little bit down here, just to blend in to make different colours, but you don't want it so harsh. And it, like I said, like an ink, it will grab onto the paper and you're stuck with it. So you can get the colour out, obviously, by doing this. But I'll tell you now, because some of the colours will stain worse than others, and reds and blues and therefore purples, because it's made up of red and blue, they will stain. You will never get rid of all of it. And that can be a problem. Again, it mightn't be a problem because you can paint something over that, but if it's in an area of your page that you don't want that and it's grabbed it and you've got this harsh line, because as you can see, it's got a very clear edge, unlike these others. This is a fairly clear edge too, but it's not the same. I also wonder sometimes, and I did a whole video on whether I prefer watercolor markers or actual watercolors, because, God, that sun's a bloody nuisance. I may have to shut the blind. I've been wanting some sun, and here it is at the wrong time. I don't know whether I prefer I prefer watercolors, actually. I do know that, because these watercolor markers can look a bit dead compared to watercolors that have more vibrancy and more movement. So, yeah, don't know. My last two choices here are another Derwent Light Fast pencil in chestnut, and as a purple, I'll go and turn the sun off in a minute, and then we can actually see what we're doing here. It's another Caput Mortuum-y type colour, so if you are after a Caput Mortuum in a pencil, the Derwent Light Fast chestnut gets my vote. It's quite similar to this beloved Caran d'Ache one. I could look at that all day. I really could. It just makes my soul sing. And this is a very, very good one to use in its place, although it has different properties. See, I smudged that one. Smudged that one a little bit, but it's just not going to do the same. Not the same at all. These pastels are excellent, sadly, but I'm cross with them because I feel as though they've seen us all coming. Not hard to see me coming in an art shop, like I said. This is Raisin by Holbein. And I like that too because it's a totally different sort of purple. This is a lovely red violet. These others almost brown. If I did a brown set here, I could have included those in the brown, the same as I've included this Herculaneum red in the oranges. But, right, there we go. Find a cloud and go behind it. But this is a totally different deal. It's a lot bluer in nature, and it's also very nice. Must just realize I try to remember to put pages in between so I don't ruin what I've already done, but yeah, you know what it's like. So these two don't go with anything much here. These do, and because they're 3 different sorts of mediums, then they fit the bill of mixed media. And these layers, to get a really good effect in mixed media, be prepared to put a lot of layers on if you want a subtle effect. And you've seen some of the things that I've done. There can be up to 11 layers. So even though I said 3, you know, your base layer, your refining and detail, I also said there can be several steps in each layer. And this is what I mean. So, you know, these colours, they're great. Let's just hope we can see them. Right. Lucky last is black in our Halloween colours. So let's go to that. Okay, in the end, I did shut the blind down because I can't see what I'm doing myself, and that's not very helpful. Right, black. Let's officially write it in so it's happening. So the last of the Halloween colours on my list is black, and a few different mediums again, which is important. Let's start with watercolour, because there are some really nice ones. And again, it might be tempting to say black is black, isn't it? You know, why are we having this whole what's the best black? It's black. No. It's the same as white's not white, and red certainly isn't red, you know, all these things. But black also has variation. And if you like things like super granulating watercolours, which I adore for their texture, then you're going to get all sorts of different other effects as well. But I'm sort of staying clear of those for now. I've got 2 in this palette that I'd like to show you that I use a lot. One is Winsor & Newton Mars Black. Now, Mars Black has got red and blue tones as a rule. I love it and I use it a lot. So this is the Winsor & Newton Mars Black that has made many a blackbird for me. And I love that. It's got lots of variation in it. But again, it's not a colour that takes over because it's got a huge personality. Huge personalities are lovely, but they can be quite wearying either at a party or in a picture. Doesn't matter. You know, it's nice to have bit players that support the main act, but they stay in their lane. You don't want them sort of dancing across the stage in front of something that you're trying to make into the focal point, that sort of thing. So that is Winsor & Newton Mars Black. It's not, I can put more on if I want more, but if I want a nice graded wash, or like I said, with a blackbird, when I paint blackbirds, I like this because it does a lot of the work for you because of the natural gradations in watercolour. The next one is the Schminke Liquid Charcoal, and this one's the cherry one. It's very similar to Mars Black. I've included it here with some trepidation because it is so similar. You might wonder why. I just like the warm tones of it. I don't use it very often, and I probably, this is going to be strange since we've included it here, I probably wouldn't buy it again. I'm not sure I would if I don't know. It's just enough different to make it worth it. So maybe I would buy it again. I don't know. I'm very new to it and I haven't used it a whole lot, but I do like the colours that it has. And it's just that beautiful warm black. Even when I'm painting something like snow, I will warm it up with tones, as you'll see if you keep following over winter and so forth as we go into the winter things. Even when I'm painting snow, I'll find a way to include warmth in it and give it some glowy warm cast, even though it's meant to be cold, because as you can see here, a lot of my colours are in the warm side. They contain a bit of yellow. Even over here, we've got some sort of weird things happening, but there's no really icy colours here. Fair enough. I've chosen Halloween colours to swatch, but having said that, there's still, I could have gone for cooler choices, like in the greens. I could have gone much cooler, but yeah, I just prefer the warmer ones. Another one that I've made myself, and again, the recipe is on my Patreon, but I can't actually recall what I put in it, but any Mars Black gouache will do job beautifully. This is a traditional gouache. Again, as you can see, it's dry in here, and I just re-wet it if I need it. So I'll put links to this for my patrons so they can find the recipes easily. But again, these are quite similar, but at the same token, they're not. They're different properties because, of course, watercolor is a slightly different thing to gouache. The one in the middle is literally the one in the middle. It's somewhere between the two. It can be anything you need it to be, really. Like I said, I haven't used it a whole lot. I don't know, but I want to use, I'd like to reach for it more. And that's part of the reason why I've included it in here. By the way, with traditional gouache, you can see this little mess here. Don't throw that away. It's not necessary. Put some water on it and it will come back to life, even though it's actually, if I hold that up, it's actually quite desiccated and dry. Rock hard. It'll still work. These others do the same. They'll crack. Just put water on them and keep using them. I like that about traditional gouache. It's kind of an important plus for it. Two things left. I have a Mars Black pencil and I have a regular black pencil. I think, apologies to Caran d'Ache Luminance because I love their pencils. This is the most boring edition on here because it is just simply black. So it's a cooler sort of black as well. You can see here the difference, a little bit cooler. So I spoke too soon about the coolness. Why I like this is that it's a deep, dark, creamy, perfect black. If you had to think about what is your ideal, perfect, normal, here air quotes, black, this is it. And I like the fact that it's good for detail work. It's just really, really useful to have in the kit. So worthwhile. This is a worthwhile spend. I like the Derwent Drawing black as well. The ivory black. Mind you, I had a few problems with these. I've had one that was split so badly along the shaft that I couldn't sharpen it. Had to resort to a knife, which isn't great. The other thing is the barrel and therefore the core of Derwent Drawing is just slightly bigger than Caran d'Ache. So although you can do detail with these, and I do quite frequently, this is easier. So Caran d'Ache, just black. They haven't even labeled it with any other name themselves. Normally, you know, you'll have some other appellation there, but it's just black. And for a pencil that's just black, it's my choice. The lucky last is Mars Black. And this is a Derwent Lightfast. And the thing I love about this is just like the Derwent Lightfast Forest, it can be several things. And if you go over that with white, let me see if I can find a white pencil, you'll create a purple. And it's a purple worthy of any of these. So burnishing with a white pencil, this happens to be the Derwent Lightfast one. Others work as well. Not Derwent Lightfast, Derwent Drawing one. Others work as well, but this I use when I want brown. If I want the deepest, darkest brown imaginable, I will go for Derwent Lightfast Mars Black. If I want a purple that's really, really moody and that I can burnish, you can't do this successfully over an extremely large area, but it does work. And as you can see, if I lift that up a little bit, it's also got a fairly amazing texture, almost like tortoise shell. So depending on what you're using it for, and you can make it go in any direction by burnishing it in the direction you're after, it's three pencils in one, because you've got the blackness, not the same deep midnight sort of mouth of hell black that this one is, but it's warmer, it's more like a brown, and therefore you can use it as a brown as well. So these kind of do double duty. And as you can see here, while these are drying, now that the sun has been shut out, this cherry pit one, or the cherry cold cherry one, it is a really nice dappled sort of texture. It's almost if it's trying to granulate. Where are you going? It's almost trying to granulate. It isn't. like that, but it can be. Let's just give it a bit of a shot with the dryer here and see what it actually turns out like. Because like I said, I don't reach for it as often as I should, but maybe that will change and I'll be addicted to it. Yeah, once it's dry, it sort of becomes a bit more muted, and had I let it dry normally, it wouldn't be much different. It does, however, come off. This is another one to be fixed, in my opinion, because as you can see, it's just charcoal in a liquid form. Liquid coal is liquid charcoal. And I would fix that just with some hairspray if it was in my sketchbook. If you're working on a magnum opus and it's going to be sold for trillions, then you are probably better off stumping up for a proper fixative. But for everything else, I just use cheap Lidl hairspray. And I've been doing it for about 40 years. Not always Lidl. We didn't have them in Australia when I lived there. But yeah, cheap hairspray. Been doing it for ages. Still got the work that I've had started back then too. Right. That is my Halloween submission of my favourite fives. Normally with a favourite five, I would do a little sketch, but I'm not going to this time, but I'm going to make some PDFs. So Patreon students, I know you're seeing this first. You will have a PDF attached to the bottom of the video so you can have a look at it. But for everybody else, I hope you've enjoyed this, and please do consider joining my Patreon if you want to see. You saw some of my sketchbook work there. Those are the things that I actually teach, and some of those things are tutorials sitting there right now. And I would love to have you join us. That would be so nice to see you. And yeah, I don't think there's much else to say, so probably time to shut up and go and make a coffee. I'll see you next time. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and like I said, join me over on Patreon. Bye for now. Bye.